What if you trained your brain to look for solutions instead of problems? A few years ago, I was in a rut. I was stuck in a job that I was so not loving. I was feeling overwhelmed and constantly frustrated. And one day, I realized, welcome to Late Bloomer Living, the podcast where we're all about shaking up our ideas about what it means to grow older. I'm Yvonne Marchese, your resident age agitator and play instigator. Around here, we believe midlife is the perfect time to play, to reinvent, and bloom like you mean it. Let's go. Have you ever caught yourself asking things like, why can't I get ahead? Or why do I keep messing things up? If so, you're not alone. I used to do the same thing. And guess what? It was keeping me stuck. But when I learned to change the questions that I was asking myself, it completely shifted the way I saw my life. And I want to share how it can do the same for you. Hi, I'm Yvonne Marchese. I'm an age agitator, play instigator. Welcome. Yeah, asking good questions can change your life. I mean it. Because here's the thing, your brain is always looking for answers. And if you're feeding it questions that focus on the negative, it'll find proof to keep you feeling stuck. But what if you flipped those questions? What if you trained your brain to look for solutions instead of problems? A few years ago, I was in a rut. I was stuck in a job that I was so not loving. I was feeling overwhelmed and constantly frustrated. And one day, I realized something that was kind of hard to admit. I was a complainer, like a big time complainer. I didn't even notice how often I was talking about what wasn't working. It was like the air I was breathing. So I decided to challenge myself. No complaining for 40 days. It was Lent, 40 days. And let me tell you, it was hard. One of the hardest things I've ever done. Much harder than giving up chocolate. I would catch myself mid-sentence all the time. And here's the wild part. Once I stopped saying the complaints out loud, I started noticing how much negativity was running through my mind on repeat, the things I wasn't even saying out loud. Yeah, that's when I realized it wasn't just my words, it was my thoughts that were keeping me stuck. And a big part of that was the way I was questioning myself. Our brains work a lot like Google. If you type in, why am I so bad at this? It'll put up a list of every mistake you've ever made. But if you type in, what's one thing I can do to get better at this? It'll start sending you solutions. The questions that we ask ourselves create the reality we live in. I'm going to say that again. The questions we ask ourselves create the reality we live in. If you're always asking, why do bad things always happen to me? Yeah, your brain is going to look for evidence to support that. But what if you shift the question to, what can I learn from this? Or how can I turn this into an opportunity? That's when you open the door for growth. And this isn't just some feel-good idea. It's backed by science. Your brain has something called the reticular activating system. I think it's back here. The RAS. Let's call it the RAS. I think it's back here. It's little. What it does is it filters information based on what you focus on. So if you focus on what's going wrong, your brain will make sure that you notice more of that. But if you start focusing on what's possible, your brain will work to find answers and opportunities. Here's an example. If you know somebody who drives a blue Honda and they're important in your life, you're going to see that make and model of a blue Honda everywhere on the road. and think of that person and wonder, oh, is that Suzanne? That's your reticular activating system going to work for you. It's looking for things that are important to you. So you can give it some guidance. Let's talk about some of the most disempowering questions that we ask ourselves and see if we can flip them to something better. Well, here's a big one for a lot of people. Why can't I lose weight? Well, ask yourself that question and see what you come up with. You might say things like, well, because I love donuts or cookies or whatever, and I'm always hungry. You're going to find the answers. By asking, why can't I lose weight? You'll find your answers. What if you change that question to, what is one small eating habit that I can change today? Or what is one small thing that I can do today to be healthier? I'm just going to leave that sitting there for a minute. Do you feel your brain going to work for you? You know what to do already, don't you? Here's another one. Oh, this is a good one. Why am I always broke? Oh my goodness, I can think of a lot of answers to that. So what if we flip that question to, what is one thing that I can do to improve my finances? I start to think of, oh, well, if I get rid of that Netflix subscription, that's one thing I could do to improve my finances today. I don't know. If I take an extra job, like, ideas, they start to bubble up. Let's go with another one. Why does this always happen to me? So I'll go with a personal reference on this. I've worked really hard on posting something to Instagram, and it's crickets. It only gets a few views, or I get no response. It's like chirp, chirp, chirp. So why does this always happen? What am I doing wrong? That's another way to ask that question. What am I doing wrong? Well, what you're doing wrong is you suck, or whatever you're doing, nobody cares, or the answers, they start to flow. But what if I instead ask myself, well, that didn't go like I wanted it to. What can I learn from this situation? So then I start to wonder, can I find a better topic? Could I find a way to say the same thing but have it be funny? Can I start to come up with new ideas? Do you see? You see the difference? One version is going to keep you stuck and the other opens up possibilities. So how can this change your life? Because that's a big claim, right? Once I started asking better questions, everything changed. I started seeing opportunities where I used to see obstacles, and instead of focusing on what I couldn't do, I started thinking about one small step that I could take. And over time, those little small steps, they add up. They lead to big changes. I would say that one of the first things that is true of that for me is that when I started asking myself how I could make my life better, and I realized that hitting the snooze button every morning was not serving me because I'd get up and have to put out fires right away with my kids and everything else, when I asked myself a good question, how can I get out of this rut? The answer to that question ended up being, well, let's do an experiment and get up early every morning before my kids. Not saying everybody needs to do that. I'm just saying that was me. That was my temporary solution. Let's try it for 30 days, see what happens. It led to huge changes that eventually led to me starting a podcast, which led to more changes. Crazy. This applies to everything, your career, your health, your relationships, and even how you see aging. Instead of asking, am I too old to start something new? Try asking, what's one thing that I can do today to move forward? It's a simple little question. There's something there that you could do today to move forward towards something you want. The questions that you ask yourself shape the way that you experience life. So why not choose questions that empower you instead of questions that hold you back? So here's my challenge for you. For the next 24 hours, notice the questions that you are asking yourself about aging, about what's possible in your life, about your future. And if they're the kinds of questions that are keeping you stuck, see if you can flip them into something that opens doors instead of closing them. Let me know, too. How did that go? You can send me an email at latebloomerliving@gmail.com. I want to know if this works for you because I think it's magic. Yeah. What's one new question that you managed to ask yourself that flipped things for you, that made a difference? Let me know. And if this message spoke to you today, if you want more content like this and you're not already following the podcast, hit the subscribe, like, follow button, whatever it is, and share it with a friend because maybe you could do this with a friend. See if you can turn it into a game. Why not make it playful? It's always more fun with a friend. That's all for now. I hope this makes a huge difference for you. And until next time, bloom like you mean it, my friend.